In today's video, we'll be taking a look at General Rahm Kota for the 30th anniversary line, based upon his appearance from the Force Unleashed. And I think that's been pretty much his only appearances in the Force Unleashed games up to this point. Would have been nice to see him in more content because I think he's been a standout character from that series, and he remains a fan favorite. And he has a great action figure to go along with it. So like I said, 30th anniversary line, the only release of him. He's turned out to be one of the more harder to find and more expensive Force Unleashed action figures from the main 30th anniversary line, which is understandable. He's a very interesting character. In my personal opinion, he's kind of like the precursor to Kanan Jarrus from the Rebel series. You can see a lot of similarities between the two. They both have the teacher persona about them, and of course their pupil is a very headstrong, very arrogant character. So what can I say about this action figure? I actually didn't get this until many years later. I think it was around 2017 or 18 is when I got him. I did get him brand new. I do recall seeing him one time at retail back in 2008, and it was at Kohl's. And I'm pretty sure he was only like $7.99, $8.99 at the time. And of course, it's one of those instances where you just look at it and it's like, hey, that's a cool action figure, and then you put it back on the shelves, and then wish you didn't do that. That was the only time I ever saw Kota at retail. I got this on eBay. I think I only paid maybe $30 in free shipping for it brand new though, so not the worst. If you look in the right places and you're persistent about it, you might find a deal for him every now and then. Otherwise, if you do buy it nows, it's usually like in the $50 range, maybe a little bit more. So something to keep an eye out on. He does have very nice packaging as well. But let's just go ahead and dive into this action figure. So if you don't know much about Rahm Kota, he's just a Jedi that happened to survive the Clone Wars because he had his own militia. So he escaped Order 66 because of that. And then he basically becomes a rogue Jedi, and then one of the first missions in The Force Unleashed, Vader's apprentice, Galen Merrick, tracks him down and allegedly kills him, but then finds him later on Bespin, and he ends up losing his eyes. The similarity with Kanan Jarrus. And he becomes like his mentor between the first game and into the second game. Very creative character. He has a lot of memorable lines. So very robust action figure, as you can tell. His armor is very heavy. So for this particular shoulder armor here, mine actually fell off, and I had to super glue that into place. I'm not sure if that was meant to come off or not, but it didn't seem like it. So now that particular shoulder armor is glued into place. So you can see he's got some scarring on his head there. His hair tied up, kind of like a Japanese samurai style. He has a bandolier there, which I think you can take off. Not sure. Maybe if you take his head off and then you slip it over his arm, you could take it off. But it is loose on there as a separate piece. Has some robes here, not really a whole lot of depth to it. And his pants and his boots. And of course the stand here, which just says Expanded Universe Rahm Kota. Interesting thing about Rahm Kota as well, I'm not sure if there's a correlation between this, but in the video game Dark Forces 2, when Kyle Katarn goes back to his father's estate and gets his lightsaber, the green one that he uses for the rest of the game. The recording from his father mentions that the lightsaber belonged to a great Jedi named Rahm, and I'm not sure if it's this ROM or a different ROM. I'm trying to think if the Jedi at the beginning of Dark Forces 2 that is being tortured by Jarek, I forget if his name was Rom or not, but I always thought, I wonder if this was some interesting insight that the creators of The Force Unleashed were thinking, like, hey, let's do a connection between this, if that was Rahm Kota or not. So just an interesting bit of information. So lots of grays, lots of browns, a little bit of green in him. There's a tattered loincloth there. So in terms of their articulation, he does have a ball joint ahead, pretty good range of motion. Does have hinge at the shoulders, but they are kind of hindered a little bit because of that shoulder armor. Despite this one being glued into place, even on this side it's kind of hindered. Now he does have hinged shoulders, or hinged elbows, I mean. Then swivel gauntlets and forearms. Then swivel wrist, then swivel hips, and then hinged knees and hinged ankles as well. Yeah. In terms of weapons and accessories, he's pretty light on it. He does have his lightsaber though, which is pretty much his only accessory. He does have a unique lightsaber though. With a unique hilt, nice green blade, and the interesting thing you can do with this is the bandolier does serve a purpose. You can't take the blade out, so you gotta deal with it like that. But you can put the lightsaber right there if you want. Kind of reminds you like a samurai. I suppose if you have some spare lightsaber hilts lying around, perhaps you can customize it a little bit and maybe make it look a little bit more appropriate for that. Rarely do I have Kota displayed like that. Most of the time he's going to have his lightsaber in hand. So we'll bring Starkiller out here real quick, and this is actually the appropriate Starkiller that duels this Kota. And this is actually the other way. Rarely do we see Kota like this with his eyes. It's usually, it's only in the first mission really that we see Kota with his regular eyes. Beyond that, he ends up getting bionic eyes basically, or has them covered with a cloth. And these two figures look really good together. So what else can I tell you about Kota? Not really a whole lot to say, to be honest. Like I said, remains a very popular character, probably one of the more popular ones from the Force Unleashed game. All those characters are popular in their own way, but Kota definitely gets some special recognition. It's the only Rahm Kota that we've gotten from Hasbro in its entire history. I know a lot of people have speculated they would like a Black Series release of him, which would be nice. I have seen some custom Black Series ones on the internet, and people have even made custom boxes for a Black Series action figure, which looks pretty good. So hopefully at some point Hasbro can get around to making one for the Gaming Greats line. I think a lot of people would like that. As far as 3 3/4 inch action figures, I doubt we'll ever see a release of him in the TVC line. It's just not a noted character these days, and as far as what's on Lucasfilm's agenda, that is. So probably a small chance we'll see that. So would I recommend him for your collection? I would if you could find him for a good price. I wouldn't say pay a fortune for him. I mean, he's a great action figure, but he's not that great. But he's faithful to the character. I have no complaints about him. Fits in well with any Jedi collection. He's just a nice action figure all around. If you can find him for, even if you found him for a little bit less than $50, I would say he's well worth the price. He is that nice, very robust action figure. Doesn't feel like he's going to break on you, minus the shoulder armor, that is. I think that's all I can say about it. So anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will be lots more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support, and check out some of the links in the description as well. Thanks for watching.